Early on in my guitar playing career, I was taught that I did not need to know theory. And in fact, it would make me worse knowing theory because I would lose my sense of feel. Therefore, I spent 3 years completely avoiding theory and anything that seemed related to theory. And 3 years in, I only knew the pentatonic box starting on the 5th fret. I didn't know any notes on the fretboard, and so I approached every solo of every song 5th fret pentatonic box. I didn't know there was different keys or anything like that. So that entire time, I would look at my favorite guitar players like Michael Schenker, Eddie Van Halen, Joe Satriani, and was mind blown of how they were able to play all across the fretboard. And that's why after 3 years of playing, avoiding theory at all costs, I decided to start looking at theory. I slowly learned all the notes on the fretboard and then started memorizing the 5 pentatonic boxes. Then my playing started blossoming and I started to finally see the progress that I've been wanting. Now when I would watch my favorite guitar players, I knew what was going on. I knew what key they were in. I knew which scales they were using. I knew the patterns. I knew all of that. Everything started making sense, making guitar playing seem easier. You see, the major scale is the foundation of all modern music. That's how we find chords, create chord progressions, melodies, and write songs. The major scale takes the 12 notes that we have in music and organizes them strategically in groups of 7 notes. It does this by following a formula where you choose a single note and you follow whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That is the formula of the major scale. All right, enough jibber jabbering. Let's see how this applies to the guitar. To get the most out of today's lesson, it is best that you already know all the notes on the fretboard and all 5 pentatonic shapes. If you don't know all 5 pentatonic shapes, I'd made a full video called The Ultimate Guide to the Pentatonic Scale. I will link that in the description below. Go check that out. I will be showing you 2 different ways to approach the major scale. The first comes from the pentatonic building up to the major scale, realizing the pentatonic scale is already 5/7 of the major scale. Pentatonic has 5 notes, major scale has 7. We're just adding those 2 extra notes. And the other way is the classic shred way, the 3 note per string major scale shapes. We will be exclusively in the key of C major for everything we cover in today's lesson. How do we find the key of C major? First, we're gonna find a C note, and then we're going to apply the whole step, half step, whole step, half step formula. And that will then give us the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. That's our 7 notes of the C major scale. Now, assuming that you know all 5 notes of the C major pentatonic scale, those notes are C, D, E, G, A. Like I said earlier, it's 5/7 of the major scale. It's leaving out the B note and the F note. So we're going to start off by slowly implementing those notes into the pentatonic scale that we already know. I prefer to start off adding the B note into the pentatonic scale first because I find it's a very pleasant and it sounds really good, that note, and it's very easy to locate. The B note is our major 7th or leading tone in the key of C major, which means it is always going to be 1 fret before our C note. So wherever we can find a C note on the guitar, we go 1 fret back. That will be our B note. For instance, if we take our position 1 pentatonic scale shape, right, we have our root notes of our C note here, 8th fret E, 5th fret G string, and then 8th fret high E. Those are our C notes. So if we just go 1 fret before those, that's our B note. We throw that in with the pentatonic shape that we already know. Looks like this. Just that easy. And I recommend you take your go-to pentatonic licks that you play all the time, and whenever you typically would play a C note, just throw in that B note right before or right after. So you might get something that looks like this. Now that's our position 1 shape. We have found the B note. We now want to do the same process through all 5 pentatonic shapes. So we have 4 more left. So we go to our position 2 shape. We have our C note right here, C note on the D string 10th fret, and then C note again on the high E. So we play that same exact scale shape, but we're going to add in the B note. And then any lick that you know that's in position 2, maybe something like this, you're going to throw in that B note. All right, now we're going to move on to position 3. Position 3 of C major pentatonic looks like this. And our C notes will be found D string 10th fret and B string 13th fret. So same process, 1 fret before the C note is our B note, which ends up looking like this. Right, and then any lick that you know that's in position 3, start throwing in that B note whenever you can. All right, next we have position 4. Position 4 looks like this. And our C notes are found on the 15th fret A string, and again on the B string 13th fret. Right before each of those C notes is the B note, so we go. And then once again, any go-to licks that you might have in that pentatonic box, go ahead and play those, but add in the B note whenever you can. And finally, we have arrived at the 5th pentatonic position, which looks like this. Our C notes are located on the A string 15th fret and the G string 17th fret. So 1 fret before those C notes is the B note, and then we'll throw those into the same scale shape. So we get something like this. So whatever licks you might know in position 5, start adding the B note into the pentatonic lick. Awesome. So now that is 6/7 of the way to the major scale. We just need to add one more note and we'll have completed the entirety of the major scale. So the next note we're adding in is going to be the F note, which is our perfect 4th interval of the major scale. And we'll always find that F note 1 fret above our E note. So if we know where those E notes are in the key of C major, 1 fret up will be the F always. So going back to position 1 here, we'll find our E note on the 7th fret of the A string and then the 5th fret of the B. So 1 fret above will be our F. So we'll get, there's our F notes. We plug that into the scale shape. Right, and again, take whatever lick that you might know in that position and throw the F note in whenever you can. And you might want to even attempt throwing in the B note whenever you can, which again is right here. So if we start plugging in the pentatonic plus throwing in our B and F note, we get some licks like this. All right, now let's go to our second position, which looks like this. In that position, we'll find our F notes on the 8th fret of the A string, as well as the G string 10th fret. So let's walk up the same scale position, but throw in those F notes. And once again, we're going to take whatever licks we know in that area and start adding in the F note with them. And then we might even throw in the B note as well. Moving on to position 3, looks like this again. And our F notes will be found on the low E and high E 13th fret, as well as 10th fret G string. And now our scale shape will look something like this. We'll take whatever licks we might know in that area. Throw in the B note as well. All right, now we'll go to position 4, which is this scale shape. And again, the F note would be on the low E and high E 13th fret, as well as the D string 15th fret. So now we take that same scale shape, but add the F note in. We take whatever licks we know in that area. I started throwing in the B note in there already. All right, and finally we'll take a look at position 5. We can find the F note in position 5 on the D string 15th fret, as well as B string 18th fret. So now we have. Right, we start doing some licks there, and maybe throw in the B note. Awesome, that's entire step 1, taking the pentatonic scale and slowly introducing our leading tone and our perfect fourth, which in this case is our B note and our F note. So once you got that memorized and mastered in all pentatonic positions and you're soloing pretty freely with that, we'll move on to step 2. Step 2 is going to be looking at the C major scale using 3 note per string major scale shapes. These scale shapes are very useful for playing fast, efficient legato and alternate pick runs because each note has the same amount of strings, which makes it very consistent and very easy to apply different patterns to. For the 3 note per string patterns, there's actually only 3 possible fingerings that we'll run into. We'll run into a whole step shape, where it's simply 2 whole step shapes combined. We start 8th fret, whole step to 10th fret, whole step to 12th fret. We will see a whole step half step shape, which looks like this, where in this case I'm going 10th fret, whole step to 12, half step to 13. And then we will see a half step whole step shape, which is in this case 12, half step to 13, whole step to 15. Those are the only possible fingers that we will run into: whole step, half step, and then half step, whole step. Before we get into what I call the vertical scale shapes, which is like this, I want to to go through what I call the horizontal scale shape, which looks like this. There's a quick little hack that I've stumbled upon a few years ago which helps with these horizontal scale shapes. So basically, if we take our pinky and we put it on our root note, in this case it's C. So I'm going to the 8th fret with my pinky. The shape following that will be a whole step, half step, leading with the pinky on the 8th fret there. So in this case, we're getting 5, 7, 8. And once again, the pinky being our root note. And we get this pattern on the guitar where it's the whole step, half step shape. It will then connect to a half step, whole step shape. It will then connect to a whole step shape. So far we have this, whole step, half step, whole step, then whole step. Then we move up and do the same exact shape again. We go whole step, half step, to a half step, whole step, to a whole step. And right before it repeats again at the octave, we get 2 whole steps in a row. So we get whole step here, 13, 15, 17, followed by whole step here, as well as that's on 15, 17, 19. If you memorize whole step, half step into half step, whole step, that duplicates twice, plus an extra whole step at the end. So these little runs like this, we do that again, plus an extra whole step, and now we're back to where we started. Now what's cool is that works on every string. As long as your pinky is on the root note, we can follow that pattern. So on the B string, we can find that. We gotta start it way up here, but it's all right. We'll start on the 13th fret. That's gonna be the whole step, half step shape, followed by half step, followed by whole step. Now we repeat that again. Whole step, half step, whole step. And we would do another whole step, but I'm running out of room. Let's go to the G string. Pinky on our root, our C note, and we'll have whole step, half step. In this case, that's 2, 4, 5, followed by half step, whole step. We do that same sequence again. Whole step, half step, whole step, then whole step. And then we're back at the octave. D string. We find the root on the 10th fret with our pinky. We have this shape, our whole step, half step, whole step there, and then we repeat it again. So we have whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. A string, pinky on the 3rd fret, A string. We're going to use the open note for this one. We're going to go open, 2, 3. That's our whole step, half step, to our half step, whole step, to whole step. Then we do that again. Whole step, half step, whole step. Another whole step. Back to the beginning. And then finally the low E, which is the same as high E. 8th fret with our pinky, we get the whole step, half step, whole step. Do that pattern again. Whole step, half step, whole step one more time. And then we're back to the beginning. So that's a very easy and cool way to start mastering the 3-number string major scale shapes. And it's very simple once you start seeing that the whole step, half step always connects into the half step, whole step, following by another whole step shape. And then that just duplicates up the fretboard. So now let's run through the 7 positions of the major scale shape, starting off on the 8th fret with our first finger. The notes of this scale shape are going to be C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And then we're back repeating those same shapes there. So position 1 altogether looks like this. And so we're starting off with 2 strings. The E and A are going to be 8, 10, 12, 8, 10, 12 with our whole step shape. Followed by the D string with our half step, whole step shape, which is going to be on the D and G string as well. And that's 9, 10, 12. Followed by the B and high E, they were going to be playing the whole step, half step shape, starting 10, 12, 13, 10, 12, 13. So position 1, slowly is this. Position 2, all position 2 means is we're starting on our second note of the scale. So the second note of C major is a D note, so we're going to find D note with our first finger, ends up being on the 10th fret, and we play this shape, which is the same exact notes we just played, but we're starting on the 10th fret D note. And that starts off with a whole step, half step, 10, 12, 13. Followed by 3 strings. The A, D, and G are all going to be whole step, which in this case is going to be 10, 12, 14. And lastly, our B and high E will be a half step, whole step shape on the 12, 13, 15, 12, 13, 15. So position 2 looks like this. All right, position 3. Position 3 starts on our third note of the major scale, which is our E note. So we get notes E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. So we're going to be starting off 12th fret. This could be open as well, but I'm just going to show you on the 12th fret with a half whole, followed by 2 whole halves, and that's 12, 14, 15 on both of those. Followed by a whole step on the G string, which is 12, 14, 16. Followed by B string, we're going to move up to the 13. We're going to go 13, 15, 17 with a whole step shape. Same exact thing on the high E, which is 13, 15, 17. Awesome. Now position 4. Position 4 is going to start on an F note on the 13th fret of the low E, or the 1st fret. It's the same thing, but I'm going to show you up here. And that looks like this. That's just going F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. So that's starting off with a whole step, going 13, 15, 17. Then 2 half holes going 14, 15, 17. And then we're going to have 2 whole halves, but they're going to be staggered. So we got whole half, 14, 16, 17. Then we're going to move up 15, 17, 18. Then we'll go to the B string with a whole step shape, and that's going to be 15, 17, 19. All right, now we're going to be moving to position 5 of the major scale, which is going to start on this G note, but I'm actually going to move it down here because I'm kind of running out of room on this Les Paul, but it's the same thing up here as down here. So that scale shape will look like this, which is 3 strings in a row going whole step. That's on the E string, A string, and D string, and that's going to be 3, 5, 7. Followed by 2 strings in a row with a half whole shape, but they are staggered because of the tuning of the guitar. So we have 4, 5, 7, followed by 5, 6, 8. Then lastly, we'll have 5, 7, 8. Now position 6. This is also referred to as the minor scale. So this is going to start off on the 5th fret, A note, and we're going to go a whole step, half step shape on the E and A string, followed by the D and G string with whole step shapes. 5, 7, 9, 5, 7, 9, followed by another whole step shape, but we're going to be starting in the 6th fret, going 6, 8, 10. And lastly, we'll be on the high E, going 7, 8, 10 with a half step whole shape. All right, and now lastly, position 7 looks like this. That is going to be 2 half holes starting on the 7th fret, B note, going half hole, half hole. So that's 7, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10. Then D and G string, 7, 9, 10, 7, 9, 10. Then the B and high E are going to be 8, 10, 12, 8, 10, 12. That is the entire major scale 3-note per string positions. I recommend slowly walking through each of those, getting the muscle memorized. Also being aware of what notes you are actually playing on the fretboard, just to simplify things. But using these two approaches, you're gonna have a well-rounded understanding of the major scale and how to play it on the guitar. So take your time. I would recommend starting with the pentatonic and slowly adding the B note, then adding the F note. Once you got a good grasp of that, then I would work on these 3-note string major scale shapes. All right, that is all for today's lesson. I hope this helped, and I'll see you guys back next time.